On today's Edge of Wonder, we're going deep dig into 5G. On part 1, we ask what is 5G and how can it affect us? On today's part 2, we'll link it back to the agenda of the deep state and expose the Cold War over 5G between them and the Alliance. Who's really behind 5G? Who owns the infrastructure? What's China's plan? And how has the U.S. been responding? Where is the current battleground for 5G? What about national and global issues? And just who's supporting who in this epic battle? Now, here's part 2, the truth about 5G on the Edge of Wonder.
Welcome back to the future. I'm your host, Ben.
I'm Marty. And I'm Rob. And we have to say, this is the 5G episode you've been waiting for.
Right, that's because in the second part of our 5G series, we'll link it back to the deep state's agenda and expose the Cold War over 5G between the Alliance and the deep state.
And if you missed part 1 of the series, make sure to go back and see it. We talk about the kinds of weird things that might happen to Ben if they actually implement it. You know, like he might mutate, but not the cool X-Men kind of mutation, the Chernobyl kind.
What are you talking about? Everyone knows that would be the cool X-Men kind of mutation. But you, Rob, everyone knows you would be like the Total Recall kind. In the last episode, we covered what 5G was, its capabilities, and how it unlocks 100 times download and upload speeds, the Internet of Things, and self-driving cars.
We also showed you guys proof that electromagnetic frequencies, EMFs, harm animals, humans, and the environment.
Companies can learn all about you more comprehensively and influence you using 5G.
If that didn't work, 5G tech can also just straight up control your behavior via ELFs, and not elves. ELFs, ELFs, and the scariest part, crazy plasma technology powered by 5G. Maybe it can be weaponized. I mean, who knows?
With that context in mind for this episode, we know why so many countries and companies are scrambling to develop 5G first in order to keep the world free or under tight lock and key.
So who owns the infrastructure for 5G? Like with most things, if you want to find out the truth, you have to follow one of two things, either the people involved or follow the money.
Exactly. Let's follow the money for a bit. Now, who's got the funds to rapidly develop 5G infrastructure and R&D?
Now, hang with us for a moment and kind of listen closely. The major players in 5G for networking equipment are Sweden's Ericsson, Finland's Nokia, China's Huawei, and ZTE.
In smartphone communication chip manufacturing, there's Qualcomm, MediaTek, Samsung, and Huawei.
This leads us to the elephant in the room, Huawei. It's so deeply connected to 5G, but we'll break it down for you.
What is China's 5G plan? Why is China so heavily invested in 5G? What's their plan?
Going back to China's huge plan to own 5G, they announced plans to invest $224 billion in 5G by 2025 to accomplish their plans, according to China Daily. Why should we listen to China Daily? Well, you shouldn't. They're a mouthpiece for the CCP.
But if they're reporting on this, it's usually to make the CCP look grandiose. So this information is probably accurate. If there's a conversation around 5G, you can bet Huawei will be a part of it. Why does China want to dominate 5G so much?
Well, like most of Communist China's agendas, 5G is also about control and surveillance.
You have to remember, China wants to replace America as the leader in global economy and pretty much global everything.
Going back to our road analogy, data in one form of high-frequency waves moves through the 5G network like cars on a road.
But guess what? China wants to own all the roads, digitally and physically.
Yeah, just look up China's Belt and Road Initiative. Originally, it comprised of two plans, the Overland Silk Road Economic Belt and the Maritime Silk Road.
These plans would allow China to build vast network of railways, energy pipelines, highways, and steam-line border crossings, reaching west through the mountains, former Soviet republics, and southward to Pakistan, India, and the rest of Southeast Asia.
The Belt and Road Initiative would expand to the international use of Chinese currency, the renminbi, while the infrastructure would deepen Chinese influence through trade and policies.
Think about it. The more they can get other countries to adopt their currency, comply with their national intelligence, the less control a country would have over itself.
They might be flying their own flag, but they might as well be Chinese, since they would be using Chinese roads, Chinese currency, and following Chinese laws.
You can see the piece by the Council of Foreign Relations endorsing that initiative. And if you've seen our Deep State series, you know how the Council of Foreign Relations is related to the deep state.
Dudes, go watch that series. But if Huawei is a private company, why does the United States still associate Huawei with Communist China?
Li Jianlian for the New York Times writes, "The United States government sees the company as an arm of the authoritarian Chinese state, beholden to the interests of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP."
And they'd be right to think that. Why? It's due in part to China's 2017 National Intelligence Law, which roughly translates to all organizations and citizens shall support, assist, and cooperate with the national intelligence efforts according to the law. It's a communist regime, everyone.
According to courts, the National Intelligence Law allows Chinese intelligence agencies to legally search premises, seize property, and mobilize individuals or organizations to carry out espionage, both on foreign and domestic soil.
I mean, legally? So it's clear to us now. China wants to exert influence over other countries by first rolling out 5G technology to a select group of countries, enabling surveillance and influence.
And second, building a vast network of railways, energy, pipelines, highways, steam line border crossings, to Pakistan, India, and the rest of Southeast Asia to control resources directly or through trade.
So what is America's plan? So how has the US been responding and staying ahead of the game? The US has been making lots of moves to thwart China's domination of 5G.
On September 28, 2018, the FCC passed new rules that would allow it to bypass states and local leaders to expedite installations of 5G cells.
But that hasn't been without lots of pushback from major cities, including Philadelphia, San Francisco, and LA, and even Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross and NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine.
By passing these updated infrastructure policies, the FCC can save $2 billion in unnecessary cost. You can find the details under the FCC's 5G Fast plan.
Sprint announced at the Mobile World Congress that it's poised to be the first company to roll out real 5G smartphones in the US. The proposed merger between Sprint and T-Mobile plays a big part in that.
Why do they need to merge? So in a Bloomberg interview, they note that any individual company will not have enough spectrum assets necessary to enable 5G to work, but collectively, they might have enough.
On top of that, they'll have access to more money to fund the development together. So the Sprint-T-Mobile merger also propels America to the forefront of 5G and solidifies our leadership in technology.
In March 2019, Trump blocked Broadcom's hostile takeover bid for Qualcomm because they potentially pose a national security threat.
On February 21st, 2019, Trump tweeted that he wanted 5G and even 6G technology in the United States as soon as possible.
Certain folks following the QAnon movement have decoded the meaning of the tweet to mean that the Trump administration is rolling out a new, safer version of 5G.
So for those of you that have been confused on why Trump has been so strongly advocating this, it's because they figured out how to roll it out while reversing the deep state's 16 plan year to destroy America.
The deep state hoped to implement a dangerous and weaponized version of 5G that would harm people and jeopardize our freedom, peace, and way of life.
The huge military spending bill is not only quietly funding the construction of the physical wall on the southern border, but also safe 5G infrastructure for America.
If the US can develop a safe version of 5G, I mean, that's awesome news, right? We know a lot of you guys have asked us about how you can protect yourself and your family from 5G.
That news should reassure everyone on most of the harmful effects of 5G that we discussed in the previous episode.
Edge of Wonder.
Where is the current battleground for 5G? Tensions between the US and China has never been higher. But where's the current battleground?
From all the recent news unfolding, it seems that there's a lot of uncertainty around Europe.
There are long-standing political ties and business relationships that are at play here. But let's set some context first.
So what's China's current grip on the European market like?
The market analysis firm Canalys found that Huawei and Xiaomi dominated the European market.
In Q4 of 2018, Xiaomi saw 62% growth, and Huawei grew over 55% year over year. That is nuts.
In comparison, Apple and Samsung were flat, and other smartphone makers saw a significant drop.
The EU and China committed to a 20-month research project called 5G Drive.
Their goal is to validate the interoperability of the European and Chinese 5G networks.
On China's end is China Mobile and Huawei. On Europe's end is the German telecommunications research and development firm Euroscom and partners from 11 other countries.
The project's main focuses are 3 sites in Italy, Finland, and Britain, and 5 in China: Hangzhou, Shanghai, Wuhan, Suzhou, and Guangzhou.
The heck? You said that pretty well, man.
谢谢你.
Which countries support the US and which countries support China? So here's the latest as of March 2019.
China has a soft support of UK, Italy, and Germany. These are not yet finalized with deals yet, but many major figures from those countries have spoken out in favor of China.
The US has the backing of countries like Australia, New Zealand, and Japan that have banned Huawei.
The US also has infrastructure partners like South Korea's Samsung, which would supply US's Verizon with 5G equipment.
And Samsung, Ericsson, and Nokia, which would supply 5G networking hardware to AT&T.
UK's Vodafone CEO seems to be in cahoots with Huawei and spoke out in defense of Huawei during the Mobile Web Congress.
He said that excluding Huawei from Europe's 5G networks could be hugely disruptive to national infrastructure and consumers.
If he were more concerned about his consumers' privacy instead of wetting China's beak, he might consider working with Finland's Nokia or Sweden's Ericsson instead of China's Huawei.
Next, Italy has ignored US's warning and sided with Huawei.
I don't see Huawei as an issue. For me, it's just one of 25 names of equipment manufacturers that you can choose from, with different prices and different quality, says Michelle Garashi, Under Secretary of the Ministry of Economic Development.
It's interesting to note that he was a professor of finance who spent a decade in Shanghai. I mean, that doesn't smell like a coincidence.
Following that, UK has positioned itself to be cautiously optimistic about China.
Jeremy Fleming, director of the UK cybersecurity agency GCHQ, said 5G security is about more than just Huawei. China's place in the era of globalized technology is much bigger than just one telecommunications equipment company.
So what's the latest development between Europe and China? According to South China Morning Post, in January of 2019, the EU expressed concerns that the Chinese intelligence could include backdoors into Huawei's equipment and spy or sabotage overseas targets.
Tim Rulig, an analyst of EU-China relations at the Swedish Institute of International Affairs, said the world might end up with a divided tech world, one Chinese-run and another non-Chinese run.
He continues, at this moment, both US and China perceive the conflict over 5G infrastructure as a matter of geopolitics.
It's really a matter of national security because we've already established that China's 2017 national intelligence law contains some very dicey language.
It forces people to comply with China's Ministry of State security in any way possible.
So although Huawei has enjoyed success in China and Europe, they've been experiencing political pushback since Australia and Japan followed the US's lead in blocking Huawei from participating basically in its future 5G networks.
Then in March 2019, the Trump administration told Germany that it would limit intelligence reports with them unless they banned Huawei on 5G.
Why would the Trump administration fervently warn Germany about adopting Huawei's technology?
Like we mentioned before, using Huawei's 5G tech would essentially be unleashing China's Trojan horse.
Huawei's 5G tech is the Trojan horse that would give Chinese intelligence unlimited access to whichever country that foolishly or willingly adopts Huawei's technology.
Unfortunately, things don't look too promising for Germany.
Yeah, German Chancellor Angela Merkel spoke at a conference in Berlin on March 19th saying she doesn't believe in first discussing, quote, sensitive security questions publicly, and second, to exclude a company simply because it's from a certain country. Right, so this is one of those like political issues now, these social issues?
Right, well that's no surprise to us since she's demonstrated a globalist stance many times in the past, and Hitler's daughter.
You did not just say that. I heard that. Losing UK, Italy, and now Germany to China isn't great news, but it was expected considering Europe's dependence on Huawei and ZTE's mobile technology.
We do have confidence that the alliance has a long-term plan to protect as many innocent people in Europe as possible from harm.
Okay, before we wrap up, please go check out our platform at edgeofwonder.tv.
Edgeofwonder.tv is the platform where we'll be hosting all of our videos, including the exclusives that we can't post here on YouTube.
We'll post episodes early when we can, so subscribers can get early access. We'll also be putting up our personal channels on there and presentations that we make that you just can't get anywhere else.
Also, guys, we'll be doing weekly live streams covering sensitive topics and just hanging out with you all more. We're building all of that infrastructure now.
So if you can, come and support your favorite truthers so we can keep producing more of this content. Subscriptions are $9.99 a month, and you can get 10% off if you subscribe annually. Not a bad deal.
We are working on some new uncensored long-form content featuring some of your favorite guests every month.
That's right. So if you want to support us and see more exclusive content, please subscribe at edgeofwonder.tv.
From our understanding, 5G is a powerful tool that can be used offensively and defensively. It can be used by both the Trump administration to easily root out and catch the members of the deep state.
Simultaneously, it could be used by China to expand the scope of their surveillance and influence over other nations like they have in Europe.
Another way to understand it is, if we don't take control of such a dangerous weapon, it will fall into the wrong hands. We believe this is why the Trump administration is trying to stay on top of this.
Or it could be used to make you grow another head or make your leg fall clean off during your daily Slurpee run. And remember, if our 5G technology is superior to China's, we'll be well equipped to defend those Slurpee runs.
The topic of 5G isn't so simple because there are both good and bad players in the East and the West.
So what can you do? Share our video with people. Tell them what's going on.
And trust the overall plan from the good guys. But don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you have 5G news that we didn't cover, please comment below and let us know.
Yeah, stay vigilant with that, and we'll see you out
on the edge.
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 On the edge. And for future reference, we'll refer to deep state as steep date. Properly spoonerized, it should not trigger YouTube algorithms until they really get smart. Now, if the big alphabet company at the top that owns Google and D-Wave would just take some of that AI intelligence and put it over here in our speech recognition, we get some stuff. No, but that's cool because they'll keep the AI over there and we'll spoonerize and we'll talk about everything right in front of their face and they'll have no cluck and foo about tut we're walking about because everything's bass-ackward. Huh? Steep date? Deep state? Darn it, I said it again.